Oh, I think the trope game is something which is like really bad. I think that's almost something that's probably a bit more common, I think, in indie games.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this introduction of like a character is a bit more... Like, a character is like based around a trope or a quirk. And I think that's the fault of anime.
Hello everyone, and welcome to what is the first of hopefully many episodes of us coming together and just chatting about random video game topics as video game developers and just creating a dialogue about things to do with video game development. Speaking of dialogue, our theme today is dialogue. Today with me, I've got Lars on my left and Karsten on my right. So,
There's a few extra R's in that.
Yeah, a few extra R's.
I thought it was a nice little thing, you know? Yeah, so to start off today's conversation, I'd just like to ask you guys what your thought process when you kind of go through writing dialogue and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're in any position really to like lecture anyone on like how to write dialogue, I guess, but in like a more general way, like how we approach it. Like, I think we've definitely gone through a few hoops where we've done it badly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a dialogue for me, it's just... I think this is going to be like a large piece of what I like to see in dialogue is sort of the ability to sort of drag you into the world, like an ability to sort of immerse yourself in it.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking, like, lots of time you can read something that's really interesting, like a wiki article, or hear a character kind of explain to you in some sort of way in like a very bland sense. But they really don't come to life until you hear them in a scene interacting and having dialogue, having a discussion. I think also likewise, like in the reverse way, like something that may sound boring on the surface or not as interesting, that can be completely replaced or revamped when you kind of see it in action. Like, I think a lot of The Wire in general, if you'd explain it to me and be like, yeah, you got police, they've got to do some detective work for certain drugs and stuff like that, and homicides and whatnot, and they kind of get dragged into it. Like, lots of the side characters, if you explain Omar to me, I would not be like, yeah, Omar sounds sick. But watching Omar, you're like, yes, Omar is sick, if that makes sense.
I think it's a big... So basically what you're trying to point out is that the script only becomes like fully matured in like the final execution of it, right? It's only as good as the final product.
Yeah. And Carson, like, because like at least from where I'm sitting, out of all our work here, I think you've improved the most in your dialogue and just how you've written stuff out. Is there any like just method by which, or thing you're talking about and just thinking like, this is what I'm thinking about now, and that's how you've kind of transformed your writing?
Well, I mean, like, so the most recent dialogue I did was with the whole family together, all the dodos. And I think there's just a few things I always say to myself when I'm reading it back is like, does it sound like people talking? Or is it more, you know, kind of off the radar, seems a bit random, doesn't seem quite natural flowing? And I think that's really important when you're looking into writing a script, because if you're speaking it and it doesn't sound right, then it's probably not going to go down well. I'm not going to say that I'm masterful at writing dialogue, but it's definitely something that's become a lot easier the more times you do it. And I think you just really got to ask yourself, if I can talk to a wall and this is kind of making sense to myself, and this conversation, I'm having a conversation with myself basically, that will work.
It is, I think, a lot about the flow as well, particularly in video game dialogue. I think in movies and certain TV shows you can get away with like people talking over each other and stuff like that, but you can't really have that in like a book or any written form. But at the same time, I think you do want them to sound legit, but at the same, like, almost like the best of human dialogue has to offer in a way. I guess this depends on the style, of course, but lots of the times, even in this conversation, there's going to be loads of ums and loads of ahs, a load of like padding. Like, everything about making dialogue is itself artificial, and that's almost like the challenge of making it sound natural or feel natural, even if it isn't, because it's all planned, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I think like you almost can't make dialogue natural. Like I think just artistically it just falls a bit flat.
It would be extraordinarily slow if you were to have like a game where the dialogue is 100% natural. Because I mean, usually it takes a decent amount of time for people to explain what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone constantly saying stuff like and whatnot would just kind of break I mean, it would be adding immersion, I guess, or pulling you into the story, but I don't know.
I think almost it would have like the opposite effect of that though, because if you're reading it and it's like it's waffling out, and I don't know. I think it's difficult to say because I haven't really read any examples.
It's not the easiest to digest, I guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think in some instances, maybe if you're like you've got a certain viewer base in mind, and lots of people are coming into it with the idea, oh, this is interesting because they've gone for a different style on dialogue. That could be a way to kind of create immersion and stuff like that. But generally, if you're making a game for a bigger audience and trying to throw a bigger net, there are general practices, in cinema and books and stuff.
Oh
and
yeah,
video games stuff. Not to hop onto another topic too quickly, but I was thinking about generally video games as a medium in general and how it's different to other things. And lots of the time, video games are different to every other medium because it's interactable. You're able to interact with it. So that's sometimes the dialogue they like to make branching conversations and stuff. But there's also smaller things, particularly as indie game developers. So for example, in a movie, I feel like most of the time the dialogue can also make or break by the actor. Effectively, lots of the time the dialogue can be really good on paper, but the actor can take it to another level or just make it not fulfill its potential at all.
Right.
So in that respect, unless you've got voice acting or some really crazy animation, which resources you tend not to have as an indie game developer, you won't have that in the same way as a movie does. But on the flip side, you have a book which is completely written down. And I think in a video game, you have to be very aware of, hey, you're actually interrupting something. You're interrupting the gameplay flow. For example, in Dota alone, you'll be swinging about using your grapple hook, jumping from tree to tree, and you're going to interrupt that and make them read. But if I'm reading a book, I'm thinking about, oh yeah, I'm here to read. I'm in the mindset to read. But sometimes if people are having more fun playing your game, and you stop them and hit them with dialogue, that can really annoy them. And so you have to get that balance almost. And in a way, I feel like you don't have nearly as much time to have dialogue. You're even more restricted in the amount of space you have, particularly if you're just keep on pressing A again and again.
Right.
Like the feeling, sometimes as a gamer, you can just be like, oh, I'll just keep on pressing A and just flick through this as fast as possible.
It depends a lot on the game, though. I mean, it's interesting. That point is, I think that's pretty valid because take a game like Earthbound, for instance. Personally for me, the game itself is pretty lacking. The RPG mechanics in it are pretty,
they're pretty bad.
Pretty subpar.
Yeah.
There's interesting effect, but overall, the whole mortal damage is cool, but overall, they don't add anything.
Right, and then you kind of build up this mentality, okay, I'm almost, as you say, I'm not here to play the game in a way, I'm here to read now all of a sudden. And so it's definitely a seesaw to some extent that you kind of need to balance. It's I think one example of, it's The Last of Us.
Yeah, The Last of Us is awesome.
It's
once again, real controversial, I guess, is because a lot of people really enjoy the gameplay, but I was getting halfway and I thought to myself, this is the same thing. Right. Stealth, pick up ammo, shoot people, etc., and I was like, this is kind of dull.
Yeah, but that definitely sounds like, again, that people were in for the story.
Oh, yeah, no, but I was mostly just there for the story. I just thought the story's
but it does a really good job, in my opinion, of sort of intertwining the gameplay and the story.
Yeah.
I think they do it.
Yeah. And isn't the second one all CGI, they act out with real people and then they kind of put that into
I think they did that with the first one.
Oh,
I can't quite remember.
I wouldn't be surprised, but it's kind of like the stuff they did for Rise of the Apes and all that stuff when they
Thanos and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. The CGI kind of they get them in the green suit,
right?
Move around and stuff.
Does he have the nodes?
Yeah, the nodes. Yeah, that's it.
It's like a black and white too. The Pokemon cinema.
Oh yeah, when you fight Bryce.
Bryce and.
Wait, is he a Pokemon?
No, he's not a Pokemon.
This is in black and white too. You got a whole cinema little side. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But people love black and white too, so I'm not gonna.
I love black and white too.
You like black and white too? I don't know.
But I mean, you got the complete opposites of when a game really should not have dialogue, and they decide to give it, and it just falls off, and that's definitely other M. Whew.
And you're just sleeping.
Yeah, you are sleeping through that.
I don't know if you're even sleeping though, right? I mean,
you just want cringing.
Well, then you just want to get over it. It's just kind of this is not the Samus we came to love. This is just a really robotic human being who's seriously emotional about killing, spoilers, something that she's killed 10 times before, and so when she's suddenly emotional...
Is it a different timeline, or is it a different...
I think it's the second last game in chronological order just before Metroid Fusion. Now, I could be wrong in that, but...
But I mean, the chronological ordering of, like, Nintendo games is
Oh, yeah, they don't really have a timeline.
Like, the Zelda timeline is 3 timelines, but they were like, let's retroactively stick this together somehow, and...
I don't know why they try it. Like, to me, it's almost better just, like, they're individual masterpieces, leave them as they are.
So, in general, do you guys have any, like, games that you think, oh, yes, this is really good dialogue, particularly maybe from like a indie game standpoint, because not everybody has the Last of Us budget to kind of work with and have all those actors and stuff. But
okay, sure.
Okay.
I mean, I think Earthbound and like Mother 3, I know that those teams weren't massive. I think they have some really good dialogue. Now, it's a different kind of dialogue. It's not a dialogue you stay there and go, wow, okay, this is a story which is masterfully written.
But that's a point. Like, how important do you think the story is to the dialogue? Because I think it, like, they're basically two parts of the same thing to some extent. Like, you can have those... It's like, take Pokemon, for instance. Like, I think, in general, the stories in Pokemon are pretty...
naff.
Yeah, they're not great.
Yeah,
like,
you have some quirky dialogues.
Exactly.
With certain trainers in your...
I mean, Sun and Moon kind of has a lot, like, Guzma himself is very well known for having some pretty standout bits of dialogue where he's just funny expressions, and people love to meme that. Like when you go and see him in the portal and he's like, huh? What are you doing here? Or whatever. He like that leaves a big impression.
Yeah, is the really quirky ones, like, you know, back in all the way in Gen 1 when you got that old guy staring in the window and you talk to him and it's like, what is this doing in the kids' game? Or you have the part in black and white where you go in a Ferris wheel and there's a hiker in there and he's talking about how sweaty he is. And it's just like, those little nuggets you find, and you obviously see the game freaks having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's not just...
Yeah, I think those are like the ones you can appreciate a lot, but then the thing is that they're not really...
And
they're improving the quality of the experience, like no doubt. But I think they do sacrifice some things. Like they can sometimes sacrifice the immersion. Like there will be some like obvious fourth wall breaking in Earthbound, for instance. You're like, haha, that's funny, but like that sounded sarcastic.
Comedy is almost harder to do, easier to do when writing it down than almost emotional scenes. Because I think particularly if there's not like a, with emotional and dramatic scenes, I feel like it may be even harder to communicate when it's just written down than when it's like acted and performed. It's a lot easier to convey when you have an actor there that can just sell you on it and be like, oh yeah, I'm not meant to be cringing at this moment, I'm meant to be invested. And you're that helps you believe and take that next step. Well, if you're reading it, sometimes that immersion that you would normally have is just not really there.
Right. I mean, and like as you're saying, especially in those points, like those pivotal points in the game, where there's like there's a heavy swing in the story. It's like a poorly like committed like comedic line can just take all the oomph out of it. So, yeah.
I think going back onto what you said about the indie games and which one, if I did think of one, I mean, it would probably be Undertale. That's been one of my favorite indie games to read. That is mainly because he's taking obviously a lot of inspiration from Earthbound and Mother 3. It's quite clear in the way he writes, and it makes for a lot of fun. I would say second time playing through, I didn't enjoy it as much reading the dialogue. That's obviously once you read it once, it's hard to then read it twice and then still enjoy it. But there's a lot of small bits in there that I think is really fun to read. And
I mean, that's a similar thing with Earthbound, because like a lot of it, like there's quite a few of those like one-line jokes and things. Yeah. So like once you've read them, you're like, the second time you can be like, oh yeah, that was funny, but like the second time doesn't have quite the same effect, really.
But I would definitely say some dialogues in video games, for me, is about interaction with your team.
Oh, Carson's been waiting for this. He's been waiting for this all week.
Like, I mean, you said this. You love your character interactions.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely
like, for example,
interactions.
You'll have me, we'll have to listen to each, time I die to one of your Guilty Gear characters, hear their dialogue a few times, like those ones. And
yeah, so that kind of dialogue.
Wait, what's that?
So Guilty Gear, it's like Street Fighter as well. It's like when you defeat a character, they say something to them.
I don't think they do in Street Fighter. They say it?
Yeah, they definitely say it in Street Fighter. They definitely say it.
Oh, no, as in, like, right? They got text, but, like, have they got VAs for it?
Oh, no. Maybe in the new ones.
Guilty Gear they do. In Street Fighter 5 they don't. It's all just text.
Yeah.
Right.
But, Yeah, I mean, I like those interactions. Those are cool. Obviously,
Small things.
They're very small, but it's things such as I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles, slowly, albeit, but still. And I mean, I'm probably gonna get flamed for this, but I don't think the dialogue is actually that amazing in the game. I think a lot of the time the voice acting can sometimes just kill it.
Yeah.
And they sound quite robotic, not too emotional. And some of the dialogue can just be, Shulk, you can see the future. Can I see the future? Shulk, you can see the future. We should do something about it. I don't know, guys. And it's just kind of like, how many times do you need to tell me that Shulk can see the future before it gets a bit like you're trying to fill something up? But the stuff I love is that, I mean, I was going around in a like 3-man party with 3 characters being Shulk, Dunban, and Ryan, and they're all like fighting together and they're all commenting to one another. But you can definitely tell that I don't know, I'm sorry whoever made the game, but I think it's Platinum Games, and that could be wrong about that. And they put a lot of effort in terms of how they speak when they're fighting, such as when they win, Dunban is like, used to be the commander or whatnot, and Shulk and Ryan really respect him, and he goes like, guys, don't get cocky, make sure you stay vigilant, etc., etc., and they're like, yes, sir, and it's like, that's cool.
The small things.
That meant that you have to have that party formation in order for them to have those conversations, which is to me that makes an RPG. Oh, bring it on to the Fire Emblem franchise.
Oh, yeah.
That dialogue can be real hit or miss.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell by the 2 groups, the veterans and the. I wouldn't call
Is
them.
this a real thing, or is this just something you make up?
I've seen it before outside of podcast, and said, yeah.
Definitely a real thing. People do. There are people who have not only played the old ones, but who have played the old ones and played the new ones. The new ones being Awakening.
Post-Awakening.
Yeah, post-Awakening. So Awakening Face and 3 Houses. And just said, no, it's a terrible way that the game has gone. I mean, yeah, people have made the jokes that it's like a waifu dating simulator and whatnot.
What does this have to do with dialogue?
Well, no, I mean, it's going across to the idea of, yeah, the dialogue is pretty bad when you're like, if you're dating with someone, it's got to be something serious. Like, marriage is not a joke, right?
Yeah.
But the game...
They just rush into it.
I remember, spoilers alert for Tharja. And,
they're just being Mormon about it, basically.
it's like
going straight in there.
Tharja and Gregor kind of style, where it's like, oh, your dead brother's here. And Gregor's like, really? Tharja's like, I can let you talk to him. Gregor's like, sure thing. I'm in love with you, Tharja. I've always been in love with you, Gregor. We're married. And it's kind of like, that's terrible. Why?
They should have just been like, some of them can't happen.
Yeah, because then you go back to the old GBA ones. I mean, none of I can really talk that much, but Luis and Pen, they're already in love with each other. So when it gets to the end and they say, they're married and whatnot, it's not that unbelievable. They were in love when the whole thing started. Yeah. So that makes it more believable. And I think that's really important when it comes to dialogue. But then, there are like 100 different examples that you could give.
I mean, but in Fire Emblem, in the more recent games, the issue they have is almost they want you to have almost every single opportunity to talk to them. And so they kind of rush individual ones because they don't want to they go in for complete freedom in your choice. But that kind of takes away from the time they're able to spend on the quality. So it's effectively quantity and not quality. The more options you have, the harder it is to basically create that depth.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm saying.
It's a difficulty of managing it, yeah, sure.
Not to kind of pivot on to another subject too quickly, but are there any like beginner's traps that you guys think there are in dialogue? Like things that you think like falling into too easy tropes or something like that? Or
I think the trope game is something which is like really bad. I think that's almost something that's probably a bit more common, I think, in indie games.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this introduction of like a character is a bit more... Like, a character is like based around a trope or a quirk. And I think that's the fault of anime.
Yeah. I mean, we have kind of like a term as like, that's very anime. And we kind of all know what we mean when we talk about anime. It's that kind of things that you only see in anime in general. And it's generally... I think, and even some, like I think directors have commented on this, for example, the one who directed Evangelion, but he says a lot of anime kind of, I don't know how true this is of the industry, but a lot of anime kind of looks in on itself and copies what is being done in anime and doesn't look outside into other media and kind of see what's been going on there. And I think
Miyazaki not say that as well?
Miyazaki may have said that, but what's his name? I think it's Oda is his name. But yeah, and I mean, it's not to say that all anime characters have garbage dialogue or don't have any depth. I mean, but in general, I think it's very easy, particularly with indie game developers, to kind of write like your typical anime.
I think
character.
they're easier to write, personally, in my opinion. Like,
definitely think it's easier to write jokey dialogue as well. So a lot easier to do that than it is to really get serious. Because when you're getting serious, that's when you really need to drag someone in. When it's like comedic, you can kind of get away with saying stupid lines because you're not really trying to drag the person and you're trying to get a laugh out there.
Yeah, and I guess that they're a lot more fun to write as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Perhaps because they're more easy. But in terms of like other media, actually, yeah. So like, let me flip the question a bit over to you then. Like, when you're writing your dialogue, how do you like to go about it? Spice it up.
I just go for it. I normally have like a shower and I'll think of something and then I just go for it and then I read it over again, find out I have loads of spelling mistakes and stuff, and then just keep on editing it until I get it right. I think it's also trying to find just coming up with the scene idea in general and not trying to waste time and thinking about, I've got a purpose with this dialogue, and you can have loads of different goals with your dialogue. And I think this is something I want to do better, is actually think about, okay, when I'm writing this dialogue, what is the purpose? What am I trying to get across here? I mean, I think the most recent bit of dialogue I've written has been the one with Leia. Yeah. And I mean, when I came to that conversation, I was like, okay, I want a character to communicate a theme in our game. How can I kind of make the theme work, get it across without having to talk too long in the most concise way possible? And that still can be slimmed down, I think, that bit of dialogue. But still make it interesting, still have a nice little push and pull in the conversation. Yeah, when I come to dialogue, I generally want to have like an idea that I'm really actually quite passionate about. I'm like, yeah, that's a cool idea. I'm really actually want to, get excited about that. And I think it's interesting. And so if you have like something like a little nugget there, and you kind of build the layers on top of that and incorporate, and not get too focused on, oh yeah, I want to be really thematically rich or whatever, and then forget that this could be just really boring, or try and bring it all together and read through it multiple times to make sure the pacing's good and all that stuff. And then you got a little bit done there, and then I give it to you guys. You guys will have your perspectives on it, and you'll give tips and stuff like that. And I think that's something that's really helpful in general, is like having a team around you to work with, and because we all have our different perspectives on how we like to write stuff, and when it comes to practice and you read through it, if I've been working on a piece of dialogue for say 2 hours or something, after 2 hours you get kind of tired, you get a bit weary, sometimes you just you're not thinking quite as straight as you were when you started, and passing off to a friend for feedback, and they can kind of ask you a few questions. Sometimes their queries will need to be fixed, and sometimes you can explain it to them and be like, oh no, this is what I was thinking. They'll be like, I get it now.
Yeah, I think that like is one of the fun parts of like that process that we went through when we were like writing quite a lot of dialogue, just to kind of hone our skills on it, or just kind of understand what we were looking for, I guess, in the mold of the game. It's like it'd be really interesting to see other people's feedback and sort of like it was often, it's a good way to open the conversation and kind of understand, not necessarily pointing out that someone's doing something wrong necessarily, but like kind of like, okay, have you thought about maybe approaching this character in this sort of a light? Or because that's something that we've definitely done a lot better, I feel, with Dodo Alone than our past projects.
Yeah, because in one of our past projects, I think what would happen is that you describe a character on paper. I think initially we came up with like 4 characters for like a different theme that we've got. So I remember one, Carson, you had like animal human morphs that are kind of together and stuff like this. You come up with 4 characters, and then you kind of give a list of like cool little facts. How are they? Are they calm and collected? Are they quite fiery in temper? Are they intelligent? Are they? Right. And you kind of have this kind of like, as we said, the wiki article effectively on them, where you're just like, yes, Ghoul has 128 children, and we're just like, oh, that's a funny fact. That's cool. But then it's only when you kind of see them in action, and you're just like, now I can, emotionally attach myself to this character and actually understand them and use empathy and kind of place yourself in their shoes and properly understand them, and then get into the mindset of like, yes, this is how they would react in this situation. And this is actually something that we all did, which is really helpful for our characters. And maybe if you want to do in your group as well, whatever game you're working on, do this as well. We had these things called the tavern scenes where Lars came up with different situations. We put them in, and 5 different situations, and then we'd write their dialogue for that situation and be like, how would they react? And this really helped because I came with 4, Carsten came up with 4, Lars came with 4. So a combined total of 12 characters, and we wanted to make sure what's in each other's minds.
But I thought we did it. So we did it on each character, right?
So everyone did it. I mean, it was to start with. I would strongly advise never doing a creation of characters by single person basis.
But like there will always be kind of like.
Oh, there'll be
like someone will take a responsibility of a character, and we've seen that in our own team. Like,
of course, even with this game, it's happening as well. It will be that someone's written more dialogue for one character than another, and subconsciously, most people will probably think, "Hey, that's that person's character," sort of in their head, even though it's not.
You kind of put a box around it. It's like, hey, I'm not going to touch Lars's character. That's his little special creation. Don't want to ruin it. Exactly. Don't add to it. And, I think for me, for a long time, that was a big issue. And
it's definitely a dangerous thing.
I'm glad we're over that one.
It's definitely something that can really block you from coming across with like some interesting ideas for certain characters, because you're saying to yourself, that's the other person, and the other person probably knows the character the best. And I think it was really poor for us to decide on like some of our previous projects to have our own characters, because then you get very attached to your own characters.
Yeah, and then if there's like a scene where then it can be kind of competition, like, oh, whose stats are the strongest and the power.
I mean, that was never that big a deal to me, to be honest.
But it's like small things.
It was never that big a deal. But like, did you find it a big deal?
No, but this is an example.
Okay. Sorry. All right. I thought you were like,
I was
like,
huge.
I wanted Theo to be the strongest.
Oh wow.
No. But like just small things where you're just like, oh, this is my character, it's a bit of my soul, I put myself in there, and then you kind of get like defensive, and then you like, then people are like, we may want to do something different, or I've got an idea for this character, and you're like, oh no, I don't need to mess with them or anything like that, and then you can get protective about it, and that's not helpful, because I mean the mentality that just you just think about it, it's like, hey, we all are confident in each other's abilities, and if we can just talk about it, discuss it, and eventually we'll come out with the best result that we possibly can get. And that's the idea. And I think this one, what we did really well this time, because I came up with some Mr. and Mrs. Croydon, which are some crab characters. I kind of wrote a little bit for them. We liked the premise, but we weren't all the way there, and so Carsten eventually went back to it, wrote some dialogue for them, and I mean, I was very happy with it. Lars was very happy with it, I think, as well.
Yeah.
He won't say it.
But yeah, and I mean, there's multiple examples of that as well. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, we're just taking much more of a sort of everyone have a jab at everyone's characters.
Right. I think going back to our previous project though, like, I think a step we took in the right direction was sort of that, like, writing dialogues for the characters.
Oh yeah.
Like that, I think, grew the characters tenfold over there, like, because we gave them like stupid backstories and stuff like that wiki page, and it's like, it's cool. It kind of gives them the history and stuff, but when you're actually like playing the game, you're not really gonna see that too much. Like you can have that, have that like arc to work with in the game, but the player's mostly going to be interacting with like either the dialogue that they're having with your various teams.
And I reckon there are also games which suffer from this as well. There's kind of not necessarily. I don't think you're going to ever find a AAA company where the characters are going to be solely based on someone's design. The characters are going to be like shared across loads. But there will definitely be scenes where they obviously put a lot of effort into making this character, and the sort of what's going on behind the scenes is this character is incredibly deep, but without just dumping loads of exposition on you, you're not going to get that across.
Yeah. And without having to read the wiki page, you won't get that.
Yeah.
And I think is a strength and a weakness, because when we wrote those super long backstories, I feel like that just made us love the characters even more, and then even more compelled to work on the game and motivated, because we're just like, man, if we get these characters in this game, man, I'm like enthusiastic for that. And I feel like with our current project, I am enthusiastic for these characters, but not as much as the other ones, because they haven't got these ridiculous backstories of these funny moments of, whatever, them turning up in some random Smith's house and then offending his wife or whatever, something like that, or going to a kitchen and trying to help the chef fix his, some stupid story like that. But
I was like, where was that one from? And I was like,
yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, that's one you wrote, I think. Or was it?
Yeah, no, it was last. It was definitely last.
But
they didn't mean to be comedic, but it just
it ended up
hilarious.
the voice acting was superb. I will say, my finest.
Yeah, and but I also think that's like the double-edged sword. It's like you get invested to them, but are you showing the player why they should also be invested in them?
Right.
And why is this relation super awesome? Why is it so like great? And why do you want to figure it out and resolve this conflict that they've got? Well, we don't want them having to read our 10,000 word page document that we've written on them, backstory. And instead, we want to show that in the gameplay and almost not have all the best bits of their story behind them in their backstory, and instead be like, yes, you've got an even better story ahead of you in the game.
Right. So that's true. And I think that's something definitely we suffered in our first project, but yeah. I think with this one here, we're looking at it a lot more from an angle of what can the player see, so that window into the world. Mm-hmm. So a bit of a jump, but I just wanted to ask this question because I thought it would be kind of funny. But like we were having that conversation about, I think previously, Carsten, you had mentioned like the love idea in Fire Emblem.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, that is probably one tier of dialogue which can be really difficult to write and really bad. Like if it goes wrong, like really bad.
I think that weirdly enough, that Paper Mario 1,000-Year-Old Door, the one about the bomb.
Fuck off.
No, no. I know. Like, call me whackhead. Call me whackhead for bringing this one up. But I genuinely was like, yeah, that's kind of. I could definitely tell that these two did like each other. Yeah, they're bob-ombs, and you've got to really look into it and say, they're bob-ombs here. Am I pronouncing them right? I have no idea. But
dude, this is the realest relationship Carsten's ever seen. He's like,
bro, do I know what a real one's like? Yeah, I've seen the bob-ombs. It's like
you're at the altar. You're like, dude, I love you more than that fucking bob-omb.
It's like, what do you call it? It's like me, like name of someone who's gone through a harder thing than this girl. You're like, yeah, you just put the picture of the bob-omb. That one I thought was actually pretty well written. It was just the context was a bit silly.
I didn't know. I'd need to read that one again, I reckon.
Yeah. I feel like the actual lovey stuff, I don't think I would know how to do that well. But generally, when I think of a romantic relationship, I just treat it like a really good friendship in a way. And so, what doesn't make a friendship interesting, in some ways, can make a romantic relationship interesting. Wise, because that.
Yeah, I mean,
in some ways, I mean, maybe that's the simplistic ways, and there's going to be edge cases all the time.
There are other forms of love for sure.
Yeah,
like Leon, like the movie.
Yeah,
like you have the love between Leon and his apprentice. What's the name of the girl?
Matilda, I want to say.
Is it? No, it's not.
It's definitely Matilda.
Is it Matilda?
Yeah, it's definitely Matilda.
She likes drinking milk, or he likes drinking milk. Anyway, and like there, they build up this sort of love between the characters, and they do that quite authentically. In quite an authentic fashion. I think that works really well. Have you seen that film?
That's
no,
true.
I have
Actually,
not.
That's true. That one worked well.
I mean, The Last of Us as well.
Yeah, The Last of Us does well. I don't know about The Last of Us 2.
Like the end of The Last of Us, I was like, whoa, like it's really good.
No spoilers, please. I hope to eventually.
Yeah. I'm gauging, Jack, that there's no romantic stories that you actually enjoy at all.
Not really. No.
What about
I mean, to be fair, I'm not that cultured on.
What about an anime?
An anime.
Has there not been one that you've watched and you've been like, yeah, that kind of worked. That was alright.
I mean, one scene I personally quite like is what's it? It is meant to be cheesy, but that's almost like the point. Is the Fullmetal Alchemists when Ed like confesses? I'm not sure what it technically is, but it's like equivalent exchange, and they make it really cringy on purpose, which is quite like charming and almost adorable. So you're like, oh, that's nice.
Like at the train station.
Yeah, at the train station at the end.
But he's like, I'll give you a bit of me. And then she's like, I'll give you a bit of myself or something like
that. It's like equivalent exchange, half of you for half of me or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I preferred the bit where she was in the bath, personally.
I prefer the part where he's eating his sandwich and she's just getting changed right in front of him.
Hey, that's pure chivalry. Do not disturb her.
Do not disturb her. And he's just like...
towards the sandwich consumption. Breasts may be on the horizon.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, best romance scene is definitely Metal Gear Solid 3 at the end.
Oh yeah, no, actually that's the best romantic scene. That's done really well.
Is that the one with the girl who can breathe through her skin, so she has to wear a bikini?
She can breathe through her skin?
Wait,
Or is it-
what?
She's
We've
like
played the game.
photosynthesis. This is
Wait.
the Metal. How much Metal Gear is this? Maybe this is a more recent one.
It's the third one.
Oh, okay. I don't think it's just like there's one where like there's the
Snake
girl with the bikini and she's like part plant or something like that, and then she has to get the breathe through.
You know what? Like, you could honestly say anything about a character in Metal Gear Solid, and I'll believe you. They can just be the most outrageous. I think that is a game where people love it for its dialogue, its whole story.
I think the dialogue's actually not that bad.
Yeah, I think the dialogue is interesting, but I think the whole story is a complete mess. But I feel like loads of people would strongly disagree with me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I must be missing something.
And there's a lot of exposition in it as well. Like, there will be big old dumpos.
Exposition.
Well, I was going to ask a different question, I guess. Like, in games and movies or anime, whatever you want to bring in, like any form of media, I'm just saying, like, what's the... Sorry, I'll just ask the question and then I'll just say what I had envisioned in my head.
Okay.
But it's like, what's the most authentic relationship you've seen via its dialogue, I guess?
Authentic's hard, but like I guess like gripping relationship and stuff. Oh, okay. Something recently. This may not be the most authentic, but it made me feel super. Herc and Carve from The Wire.
Oh, no.
I recently started season 3, and in the second episode, for the whole episode, Carve is trying to get Herc to talk about who girls he'd like to have sex with if he had and choose one guy he'd like to have sex with. So before he can have sex with the 2 girls of his dreams, he has to have sex with one guy.
Anybody I want? Anybody. I want more than one. I want the Olsen twins.
You got them. Slaves. All they live for is to get you off. But so now who are you gonna do for them? One guy, one act, one time.
Right, and the minute I name a guy, you're gonna be like, I knew you were a cocksucker from the first time I laid eyes on you. Steve McQueen, huh? That's your fantasy? You fucking closet case motherfucker.
Steve McQueen?
Fuck you. It's a setup.
Both Olsen twins. Ashley, Kate.
Mary Kate. And yeah, I admire their body of work.
They're yours. All you gotta do is name a guy.
All of that so that he can basically call him gay at the end and make him fun of it. And it's like so like I've been there in that locker room where guys are doing that all the time, just trying to be like, yeah, you're gay, mate. And it's just like that's proper, that's like authentic in a way, because I'm just like, yes, I've seen that in real life.
He picks the
That is so
Olsen
funny.
twins, doesn't he?
Yeah, but or some of the more like, I guess, interesting relationships are the ones that aren't like are possible, but like have like a lot of layers to them. So I guess maybe not like it wouldn't be authentic because I haven't seen it in real life.
Right.
But it's stuff that I find really interesting. So for example, one of the best ones I can say is in Vinland Saga I've seen, and that's one reason why people love that the manga in general, because of the relationship 2 of the main characters have effectively.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we were to go on like best ones other than the one I'm thinking of, it would definitely probably be like Ellie and Joel from like The Last of Us. I definitely feel like they really nailed it on the head for you caring about what happens to both these characters at every moment.
Oh, yeah.
Is it that father-son, father-daughter relationship?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
father-daughter relationship, and I
Yeah.
think they really nailed that.
I do like parental relationships. Actually, one relationships I do think Avatar gets really well. I don't think Avatar does romance very well, but I think it does sibling relationships pretty good. And some of the dialogue surrounding that, I quite like. I mean, one of my favorite scenes from Avatar is actually the opening scene when they're fishing together, and it's like it reminds me a lot of like just how siblings would argue in general. It's just really stupid, but it's like, yeah, that's authentic to me in a way.
That's interesting that you say it like that, though, because it's like, I mean, like, this authenticity thing, you're right, like, it's only really authentic to you if you can relate, like, if it's relatable.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't really, like, if we talk about The Wire, like, put my hand all around my face, but it's like, I can't really talk about the authenticity of like Stringer Bell and Avon Barksdale's relationship
Yeah.
because they're just so
Like so far fetched in terms.
Yeah.
Of
Well, yeah,
what
but,
you're
but
used
there
to.
is something relatable about it. But like both
there
those
will be
characters in that
relatable
relationship
qualities.
would not be things that I would do.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what.
Just fill out. Yeah, and yeah. I mean, and I think
But like the Saka and Katara one, Sokka and Katara.
same difference, pretty much. Yeah.
But like that one, I don't think I have that relationship.
And I think that's basically because Claire, my sister, is very much like a Katara type character, and so I insert myself into Sokka's shoe a lot of the time. And I'm not very much like Sokka at all. But there has been instances where I'm just like, yeah, I feel you, Sokka. This is like how I feel like in my relationship with my sister. I can cast my mind back to when I was 12 years old, or whatever, you know. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the first pilot episode of our podcast here. If you have anything else to add to the discussion, please put it down in the comment section below. Sorry about any of the audio issues or the camera issues that we had. We're going to fix them for next time and make it even better and have a proper setup. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it and want to see more Dodo Alone or any of our video game in general, we'll be posting regularly on this channel. So if you want to, feel free to subscribe or join our Discord channel. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Ciao!